Welcome to the Town Board Workshop on Thursday, April 10, 2014. I move that we open the meeting.
I'll second that.
Please rise and salute the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
A moment of silence for our troops worldwide. Emergency exits are to my right, behind the town clerk, and also the door that you came in. Roll, please.
Councilman Delango?
Here.
Councilwoman Hitzelberger?
Here.
Councilwoman Doyle? Here. Councilman Perotti?
Present.
And Supervisor Perotti?
Here. Is there any public comment?
There are none signed up.
Then I believe it's the Tamarack Preserve Cabin Project presentation. Please go to the podium. Thank you.
Well, at this point, I think we were replying to the town attorney's letter of the last meeting that we had in front of the town board, and I believe you have information that was supplied by our engineer, Amenia. And we think that, there he is. And we think that we have complied with everything that was asked for in that letter, unless there is other comment.
Denise, you've reviewed it.
I have looked at it. On the acreage for the proposed action, the 2.32, is that including the roadway?
Yes.
And this looks like it's going to be a major project?
I believe it is.
Planning board review?
I don't know what constitutes a major project, but sounds like it might be.
I did have a conversation with Dave Everett today, and I think we need to look at the zoning a little bit more to see whether or not this falls within the purview of the town board or the planning board.
I believe what the town board was supposed to do is to vote on whether to amend the existing special use permit so that they could go to the planning board at that point.
I'm not sure that I've seen all of the documentation on the special use permit. I did get something this afternoon from building and zoning, but you know, as far as the original permit, there was something in your original application that has building permit on it, and then above it in handwriting, special use permit.
The special use permit was issued by the town board originally, and it was therefore my understanding from the town that we were supposed to meet in front of the town board because of the fact that they issued the original permit. And at that point, then we would move on to the planning board. That was my understanding. I could be totally mistaken.
That was my understanding, that Ian was the last one that Mr. Bonnecue met with the town board, and he said you need to address a few more items, which he's come back to us, and he's addressed these items that were in question because Ian McDonald clearly outlined what was missing from the application. Correct. So he's now come back with all of the items that Ian McDonald felt would have satisfied the next step.
We had no other document to operate from than the letter from Ian McDonald, and we believe that we've complied with as I mentioned at the outset, with all of the things that were asked for on that letter. There needed to be additions to the narrative, and there needed to be some site plan improvement, there needed to be some other engineering work done, and we believe that you're in possession of those documents unless there's something that we don't know about.
Yeah, one of those was the full EAF, which we have. But from what I understand, I believe that we are tasked to do tonight is to vote on whether to amend the existing special use permit.
That was my understanding.
And I just need to know if everyone feels they're ready to vote to amend the existing special use permit so that they can move on to the planning board.
I'm prepared to vote on this.
Yes?
So let me just make sure I'm understanding. So we would amend the special use permit of the Tamarack Preserves, or would this now be an amendment to apply to all of, you're the only fish and game in this area, but would it apply to every application after this?
We're voting to amend the
Tamarack
His,
special
theirs,
use,
right.
theirs
just his.
only, so it
Yes,
only
only
affect
theirs.
that.
And then
Okay.
they can move on to the planning
Yes,
board.
so I would feel comfortable doing that.
Okay, then I'd like to make a resolution to amend the existing special use permit for the Tamarack Reserve in order for them to move on to the planning board.
I'll second.
Councilman Malengo?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hitzelberger?
Yes.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes.
Councilman Perotti?
Yes.
And Supervisor Perotti?
Yes.
Thank you.
Well, county legislator is here to tell us the latest and the greatest, so we'll let him speak next.
How are you? Michael Kelsey, County Legislator. Since I was here last month, we've had a big move in that we received money from the state budget. State budget passed April 1st, and that is allowing us to repeal the energy tax. So we had a meeting last week where we voted unanimously to repeal it, and the repeal will take place, we hope, June 1st. Now, a little background on how that plays out is the state voted to give Dutchess County $5.25 million during their state year, which is April 1st to March 31st of next year. So with that, about $3.25 million will come this year into our county budget. It's not mandate relief. Mandate relief would be reoccurring, and it would actually take over the expenses of some of the services that we're required to perform. Instead, it's a one-time payment, and the reason they gave to justify it is that we've had a number of mental health institutions close within the county in the last several years, and therefore that Dutchess County is deserving of more money due to the mental health needs. So the money is earmarked for mental health needs, but it will not be spent that way. It'll be spent to try to overcome our budget gap. Now, if you recall, the budget gap that led to the passage of this energy tax is $7.5 million. So when you do the math at $5.25, and between this year and next year, you're really looking at about $3.5 million of relief from the state, which is about half, not slightly, a little bit about half of what our budget gap is. So the question we have now, even though we've repealed the energy tax, which was the right thing to do, and as you know, I voted against it. I don't think we should have had it in the first place, but now we have to look at our finances right now about whether our budget is balanced. The energy tax went into effect on March 1st. it'll expire, we hope, June 1st, and I'll explain why I say hope in a minute. So we have to look at how much money was collected in the month of March, April, and May, and determine whether that fills that $4 million gap of the $7.5 million gap. So it's going to be a couple months before we know where we are financially, whether we have a balanced budget or whether there's a shortfall. We won't know March's numbers until April 20th. Now, I would presume March was a cold month and that people who received deliveries of oil or propane probably had empty tanks, so we probably could guess that the money that came in March will probably be on the higher end, but whether that plus April and May is enough to fill our gap, we're not going to know for some months. So I know that the county is looking at, are we going to have cuts during the summer months? Are we going to have layoffs during the summer months? A letter already went out to the nonprofits. A number of nonprofits receive, the contract agencies, they receive money in our budget. We have, under the County Executive Molinaro, they compete every year, a competitive grant program, an amount of about $700,000. And this is the time of year that they're applying. And so a letter did go out to these agencies to let them, put them on notice that that money might not be available. And actually today, one of those nonprofits, the Northeast Community Center, sent a letter to all the legislators as well as the executive saying that if they don't receive money, and there's no guarantee either way, but said if they don't receive the money, one of the programs that they would lose, it would be an internship that affects students in both Northeast and in Amenia that go to work, and this money provides for that. So that's one of the programs that could be on the chopping block if we ever get there, and that's just on a local level. So we don't know where we are financially right now. Anticipating having to make cuts anyways next year, the county legislature has been on a monthly basis meeting with all our departments and really started budget review now. We're not waiting until budget time in the fall. This month we met with the Department of Planning, and we asked planning to tell us everything that they do that is not mandated. And pretty much because we have 30% of our budget that's non-mandated, we want to know what they are and really starting to look, where do we cut? Because with the energy tax not being there, not only is this year's budget gap, but next year's budget gap, that's $7.5 million, because we're not going to rely on revenue from an energy tax. So cuts will have to be made. Department of Planning went through their items: economic development, tourism, open space, transportation like loop service, planning services that municipalities share in. So we've heard from Department of Planning, and this month then the Budget Committee is going to meet separately and, based on what we heard, offer suggestions, say, should we cut here, should we do this? Next month it will be another committee, so another department. So we are being proactive, but depending upon the sales tax revenue that comes in the next couple months, we may be a little more proactive than looking next year's budget. It may happen this summer. I said earlier that we hope June 1st will be the date of the repeal. And I say hope because the state has two requirements when it comes to taxes. Number one, you can only implement a tax or rescind it on the first day of a quarter, March 1st, June 1st, September 1st, and January 1st. And you have to have 90 days once you have a legislative act before it gets implemented. As you recall, our budget passed in December. The energy tax went into effect March 1st. So here we are in April repealing it. Theoretically, we should not be able to repeal it following those two rules until September 1st. We've asked for a waiver, and on good authority, we think we'll get the waiver that will allow us to do it June 1st. So that's why we hope, but it's not a guarantee at this point. So that's kind of where we are with the energy tax. Before I proceed with any other issues, is there any questions or comments, further clarification from anybody?
You know, you proposed a situation with having Dutchess Community College become SUNY Dutchess.
Mm-hmm.
How far did you guys get with that proposal?
Not very far. I proposed it. There is some support, but there's so many moving parts. It's never been done before, and there, as you can imagine, there's been a number of pushback. And then, of course, once I offered as an alternative to putting the energy tax into effect, once they had enough votes for the energy tax, you no longer had the crisis. And so there wasn't a lot of interest in exploring it. Since we've repealed it, now we're back to square one. I've again suggested it, and I've asked for a presentation from the college. We vote on their budget in July, and I've asked for a presentation prior to that on our share, because as you know, the college is a county, state, and tuition, three legs to the tripod. And we, under state law, we can't reduce our share, but our share can come from different sources. For instance, and what I've researched is the value of the land. We own the land the college sits on. That is considered part of our contribution. One of the other elements is what's called a chargeback. When students from other counties do not use their community college, the counties get penalized. So when we have a student, let's say a student from Amenia, decides not to go to Dutchess but goes to Columbia or Green, we get penalized as the county. We have to spend taxpayers' dollars to Columbia or Green. The same is true with Dutchess, that when students from other counties come to it, those counties have to pay the community college. And since you have the dorms, 80% of the residents of the dorms are from other counties. The dorms went up last year. The college is getting a lot more money. It's about $3 million in revenue, and it used to be below $1 million. So within the last year, they get additional $2 million. And when I've asked the college, and the college president said they count that money towards the county share. So I'm arguing that that's an extra $2 million that we should be able to reduce from our taxpayer subsidy. And when I suggested it, they're saying, oh, no, no, no. But I'm asking how this formula is considered, because I think, especially with the dorms, with more money coming in, there should be some savings there. But again, there's all these moving parts. And this is an area that, in my opinion, has not been looked at. We've just been writing checks to the community college, and I've been asking for more analysis. So hopefully, even though it's a different direction than what I was suggesting back in December, I'm still very much looking at their finances. And I will say, I'm going to talk about bonds in a minute, but the community college did come to us in January asking for a bond. That's one of the ways we do our sponsorship as well, is we borrow money for capital projects. And they came to us asking for electrical upgrades to a couple of their buildings, about $800,000 worth. And the legislature did tell them no. We told them there wasn't support, and they pulled it back. So we rejected it without the vote. But that is ultimately, I think the legislators, through my research and publication of where they are finances, I think they said, you know what, college, you have the money, we don't. It was asked to the college, if we don't pass this, will you spend your money? And they said no. And we said, well, then do you really need it? And why did you say no? And they said no because if under the bond plan is if the county spends half, the state spends half. And they didn't want to spend the money they have a nice healthy fund balance. They wanted the taxpayers, and that was very loud, very clear to us so we did reject that bond. So there is some thought, but politics and policy ideas take a long time to germinate, so.
Now, if it's no longer Dutchess Community College, it would just become a SUNY school, correct?
Yes, and that's been my argument. Right now, people are not looking at that direction. They're not considering that. And because the thing is, it's never been done. You've never had a community college cease to be or change into a SUNY school. So that's part of where I've been recommending. I look at it and say, well, just because it's never been done before doesn't mean we can't. And I think there are a lot of people saying, well, how does this happen? Or what steps have to be taken? And I have letters asking to SUNY and to NISAC and the New York Association of Counties, asking, well, theoretically, how could this go? But right now, nobody knows, and that's part of it. Hasn't been done before, and that's really what's got people looking at it. And then there's also fear, because the college is a great institution. It provides a lot of opportunity for people, and so you don't. anytime you mess with something, you know the old saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So there's concern, and there is pushback, and I think that's one of the reasons the state of the county was held at the community college this year. You know, I think a lot of it was that is concern, you know, saying, whoa, what's going to happen here? My argument is that it's a great institution. The county got it going, but now they can support themselves, and as a county we can't, and we do pay them about we do $10.8 million in direct aid each year, and then when you factor in our bonds and our chargebacks, we pay about $15 million to the college each year, and that's a lot of money that we don't have, and that's why I think it's an area that we need to look at.
So it would be helpful, for me anyway, if there was like a pros and cons, because I don't know what happens if we would become a SUNY system. I don't know that I would advocate for that, because I don't know
Right.
what that would do, because I'm taking my child around to look at colleges, and I'm realizing it is very tough to get into the top SUNY schools. I mean, we're talking hard. You have to have a 4.0 average to get into Geneseo. It's one of the top Ivy League schools. It's like the cheap version of an Ivy League school. I don't know that we can necessarily get into it, whereas Dutchess Community College is right here. I don't have to pay room and board. I need to be able to get my child educated. And it's affordable, and it's something that I think our county really, it's important. It's at least as important as many of the other things that are on the chopping block.
Right.
So good, solid education for our kids, make sure our kids can get in. 10% go free, I believe. And if
Yeah,
you're in the top
top
10% of
scholars,
your...
yeah.
This is a really incredible opportunity for our kids.
Right. And
So if that doesn't allow our kids, the top 10%, to go free, I'm not sure I'd be for it.
yeah, it is. I mean, Dutch Community College is very affordable. It's the most affordable in the state. But when you think about it, and that's really, why is it? Well, 2/3 of the other share of the tuition is coming from taxpayer, state and county. The issue is, I don't think it should be a nuclear. I don't think it should be Dutch Community College or SUNY, meaning the county and its sponsorship. The solution, in my opinion, really needs to be, it's not an all or nothing. It really needs to be that the county has to have the ability to reduce its share when it needs to. Say, instead of giving $10 million this year, we can only give $9 million. And they need to be able to do that. And the problem is there's a law from 1993, Senator Slan was a major proponent of it, that says you can't reduce the maintenance of your share. You have to maintain what you gave last year. And that is difficult in this day and age, because everywhere else we're cutting, we're looking at it, but yet that one has to stay the same. It turns into a mandate. And if that law, and Assemblyman Lawler has a bill in Albany to change it, where counties need to be able to, just like everywhere else, say, can we change that? Can we give you less this year? We still want to support you, but we can't give you. Can we shave off $1 million? We did it with the towns last year, for good or bad. And I think if you change that, you still have a community college. It's just you're lowering your share. And in a case where the college is sitting on, between the association, the foundation, and the college, is about $25 million in their fund balance, that there's money available they have, why is the county suffering? And I think that's the change needs to be made, is that law to allow you to lower, maybe increase down the road, but we know probably not going to happen. You need to be able to have flexibility with that. And I think that's the solution, not just taking our ball and going home. Unfortunately, we don't, the way it is, we don't have much options.
Okay.
So, but I agree with you, Dutchess is a great jewel that we have here. So,
Mike, I just wanted to say thank you very much for not giving up on the energy
thank you.
tax and working so hard to get it repealed, because there are a lot of people in the community who, really, really couldn't afford it. And,
and I
they're
know.
very appreciative.
You've heard my comments before,
Yeah.
and that I said it was a bad idea. But I really think if you look at the process here, once the state gave us some relief, there was a number of comments, press releases, really looking at the heroes, and in my opinion, the real heroes are the people that have spoken up, written letters in the papers to us legislators, called on a regular basis, and they're angry, they're upset, and rightfully so. And I think it's important, because they didn't allow this to go forward. They said, no, this is bad and you need to change it. And they ultimately did change opinions, change minds. The people who voted for it turned around and I think a number of them regretted their decision. And I think you had a unanimous vote to repeal. And I think that's due to the people. And I wrote in my recent column, I likened it to the intolerable acts during the War for Independence and, the Stamp Act, the Tea Act. And what happened is the people at that time said this is intolerable. And through broadsides, letters to the editors, through demonstrations, whatever, the Sons of Liberty said, we're not going to stand for this. And I think what we need to, and I think it is a comparison, but I think more importantly, what happened back then is the government of that time, the King of England, said, no, we don't care what you say, and what happened is we had a war. And I think in this situation, you had elected officials that at least said, you know what, you're right, we were wrong, reversed course. And so I do think, one, the people are the heroes. Two, it does say something about our system of government, that the government is willing to listen to the people, and when it makes a mistake, will rectify it. And I think that's an important lesson to observe here.
I agree. And speaking of that, you said you're waiting for a waiver. Would it be helpful for people to
I don't.
someone in particular know that it would be
I don't
a
know
really
if it's
good thing?
necessary, but I'm sure it would not hurt, for people.
Who should they reach out to?
My guess would be probably your state representatives, and just
Okay.
because it is going to be from the state. I mean, it ultimately comes from the state Department of Taxation and Finance.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if they're. I mean, you can probably write to them as well. But ultimately, I think if the state representatives put in a call and just, hey, I think that might be the way to go. But I don't. My understanding is we're probably going to get the waiver, but until the ink is dry, it's
Never hurts.
right.
Okay.
So. In other news, on our agenda this month, one property owner in Amenia, Jack's Auto, they've been having a problem the last couple of years because part of their property is state land, and the state has been charging them a rent, and it's been causing a burden to their business. They approached the county, and the county intervened, and as of this month, we voted to the county would accept that land from the state, and the state has now given it to the county, which will provide some relief for that business. And so I did speak with the Gregories this week and let them know, because now that burden will be lifted from them. Also on our agenda, this is usually the time of the year that we consider requests to borrow money, to bond for projects. And it's been uncomfortable this year because we don't know what our budget is. Because of the energy tax repeal now, we don't know if there's a gap or not. But even so, we've been looking at our bonds and looking for ways that we could reduce the needs, because from the bonds you get debt service. We passed 2 bonds this past week. They're traditional bonds that come forward every year. The first is dealing with roads and bridges. That is a bond for $5.5 million, $5.6 million. And most of us have looked, you need to take care of your bridges and your roads. They're a high priority. Last couple of years, there's been a number of projects, bridges out here. I don't think there's any this year, but it's as the DPW prioritizes them. So we passed that bond, $5.6 million. There was an amendment that was withdrawn, but it was tabled for us to look at next month or the month after, once we see what our financial situation is. 2 legislators have asked, and the county executive has asked, for us to put 2 more bridges into that bond. These are 2 bridges, one in Stanford, one in New Hamburg, that have recently been downgraded. There's now weight limits on them, and they've asked us to authorize to fix those. The problem is those 2 bridges, if we fix them, would cost another $5 million. So almost double the cost of the bond. So right now we've said no, but it's still being looked at, so that's something that's out there. The second bond we passed is our annual automobile purchase. It requested was $1.3 million. Most of the vehicles go to the sheriffs. The other half is, for the most part, DPW, Department of Public Works. There's also some that go to public defender, what used to be called the Social Services Department, Community and Family Services, and Public Defender. And we, as legislators, we whittled away on that list. We had scrutiny and asked the department heads, what do you really need? Can this car make it another year? And we brought it down to under $1 million. So that was, we still need to replace some of our vehicles in our fleet, but we said, what can we hold off on? So those 2 bonds were passed. Going forward, we have many more bonds on our plate that we're looking at. Included with that is a bond to tear down the buildings at the Eastern Government Center, the old infirmary. If you remember, the Eastern Wing collapsed, I think it was 2 winters ago. There's 8 other buildings there that are in pretty bad shape. And so we're considering that right now. We would vote in May. That would be a bond of $800,000. There's another bond that has been proposed that I think will be rejected, and that's to build a garage at emergency response. The Emergency Response Department has been very proactive in applying for different types of machinery, trailers, lamps in case of emergency. And they've been so successful that a number of this equipment is out exposed to the elements. And they've asked us to build a garage so that it'll be protected. And I think our response, the legislators, toward it is, this is all nice, but a lot of this is we didn't approve buying it anyway. How can, you know, if we don't have a place to store it, maybe you shouldn't have gotten it. Although, heaven forbid, we need to use it. You know, where will we be then? But that's a bond that we're considering, but I don't think we'll see the light of day. And there's a couple more bonds that are being requested. An open space bond is one of them. And I think as we move forward and we see where our finances are, we'll see what happens with there's another bond also for mowers and chippers and machinery that we see every year. You know, we have to update some of that. So that's kind of where we are with spending within the county. And one more bond, and this is the big one, is if you remember the state of the the county executive said that the state corrections is now allowing us to build temporary housing pods at the jail. The jail, as you'll recall, can have 250 inmates. We currently house out an additional 200 inmates in other jails in other counties, and the cost to us was about $800.25 million a year that we spend to house out inmates. Long-term plan is we need to expand the jail, and last June we bonded to allow a study to define the project, to make plans, and last December we bonded to purchase the land adjacent to the jail. Those were the 2 good faith efforts the state needed to see, so they've approved us to build these pods. These pods would be temporary housing. They would go in the parking lot behind the jail, and we would be leasing them from a company down in Texas. And at the end of the time we'd be using them, they will pick them up, remove them, so we're not going to be stuck with vacant buildings we have to demolish. That cost to build these pods and for the lease is just under 6.5. It's $6.49 million. And that will have a savings of about $1 million per year. The drawback to this bond and these pods is that the state says you can only use them for 4 years. They want a jail up and running, expanded jail up and running by 2019. And if we don't meet that, or if we don't take the steps to move that expansion along, we get a plan and we reject the plan, or we don't approve it, at any time the state can say, can't use the pods anymore. So we need to expand, and the pods will save us money, but we're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. The pods, as I said, will save us $1 million a year. That's a cost savings. Other benefits is it'll bring the inmates home. It'll allow them to be closer to their families, closer to the legal system, and hopefully process through the courts quicker, rather than having to constantly go up to their jail in Rensselaer County or wherever it might be, come back down for arraignment, come back and forth. And they'll also have more availability to the services that Dutchess County has available, whether it's drug treatment, whether it's how to get a job, et cetera, et cetera. So there are benefits, and hopefully if we see them in the pods, people move through the system quicker, the head count will go down. And then when we're considering expanding a jail, we can have a more realistic idea, how many beds do we need, as well as looking at our jail population and seeing what kind of beds. Do we need mental health beds? Do we need youth beds? Give us more of an idea of what to build, and that'll be the next stage. Next year, we'll probably be voting on what to build. If we pass the pod bond in May, construction will start in September, and they hope to have the pods fully functional by the first of the year in January. So that's where we're at with the jail and with bonding. Questions, comments on any of that or any other topics?
It seems like the question would be like whether I lease a car or I purchase a car. At the
Right.
end of the day, does it make sense to not have anything at the end of the day rather than paying on a bond? This is just delaying the pain, right? And we have
Yeah.
nothing at the end of the day. It goes away, the pods go away, and we still are faced with the big. So this buys you time to study.
One, it gives you that time. Two, it's $6.5 million, but it's over a 15-year period where we only have a benefit for 4 years. So we'll still be paying for years that we're not going to have the benefit of. It will allow the inmates to come home. It will have for those years when there is a benefit for them, and hopefully the benefit to preventing recidivism because they're getting more services, getting through the court system faster. It also could, if our head count goes down, it could save us from having, when we build the jail, saying, well, maybe we don't need this as big a jail. So there's outcomes there that could be good. But the question is as far as bonding goes, we've already bonded $2+ million just in the study and in the buying the land for the jail. Now you're looking at another 6.5 for the pods, and who knows what the cost is going to be for this expansion. We don't have that data.
Let's hope you do a better job than Ulster County, because
Right.
that was a disaster.
And that's in the back of the mind.
Yeah.
Our current Commissioner of Public Works, Noelle Nilly, she was in the national study. She was hired with the whole idea of number one question is, do you have experience and can you help us build this jail or whatnot?
On cost, on
Right.
time. That was,
Yeah. And that's in the back of everyone's mind because everybody knows that,
Yeah.
and that's
if
going
it
to be
takes time to figure that out, you certainly don't want to go in
right.
half-baked and find out it takes much longer to build and much more money than anybody ever
It's a huge undertaking. It's the biggest bond that I'll ever see as a legislator, and that's, and so I know the county executive's been going slow, getting all the studies, and the next study would be really what do we build, and it is going to be focused on the population of the jail, and also, right now, what's the ratio of staff to inmates? Right now, one of the additions that we have, the ratio is so low that it's overstaffed, but we can't, within the criteria of the state, we can't change that, but with the new addition, it will be. So it is looking at the dollars, but it's also looking at how do we serve the people so they don't keep reoccurring in the jail. Any other questions, comments?
Thank you for all of that information.
Okay, it was a lot. I hope I didn't bore you guys. So.
No, certainly
Good. All
not.
right. All right, thank you.
Town clerk report?
Good evening. This month, I remitted to the supervisor the local share from the town clerk's office in the amount of $421.50. I'm in receipt of the resignation from Kim Watt, who several weeks ago was appointed as deputy town clerk. So I'm asking the town board to please accept her resignation and to appoint Kathy Whalen, who will be replacing Kim Watt, as the deputy town clerk, the deputy tax collector, and the deputy register of vital statistics. The minutes for March 27th and April 1st have been submitted for your approval. The town clerk's office will be closed on April 16th. This will allow me to attend the new DEC training on the point of sale. As we discussed during budget time, I put in for a new computer because we're getting a new sailing program, so I finally was selected and I got the confirmation 2 days ago that I'm in on the April 16th class. Even though our system is down, as I reminded everyone last month, the fishing season did open on April 1st, and you may apply online if you want your fishing license right this moment at licencecenter.ny.gov. Per the recommendations of the Theodore and Company, the analysis for the checking accounts for the town justice accounts have been completed. Karen has started a spreadsheet I filled in all of the missing information, and I've provided copies for Karen and the supervisor from the State Comptroller's Office of all the information that was required to fill out the spreadsheet. At this time, I'm in receipt of no letters of interest for the Housing Board. So if anyone is interested in filling the seats that are open on the Housing Board, please feel free to submit your letter of interest to the Town Clerk's office. The RFP concession stand bids were due today at noon, and to date, I've received one sealed bid. And the lawn bids that were advertised in the Millerton News, I've received 2 sealed bids, but I see that's later on the agenda, so I want to take action later on that. Or now.
Now, what dates do we need to vote on to accept Kim's resignation?
Kim's letter of resignation stated that her last day was going to be April 11th. Her last day was April 8th. Right? Not April, it was 8th, right? And was she, was it last
Or
week?
was it the
No, it was
first?
last week. Her last day was, it was the 1st. April 1st was her last day. She did not come in on the 2nd.
Okay, then we need to make a motion to accept Kim Watt's resignation effective April 1st
I'll second that.
from as Deputy Town Clerk, Deputy Tax Collector, and Deputy Registrar of Vital Statistics also.
Councilman Delango?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hitzelberger?
Yes.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes.
Councilman Prodi?
Yes.
And Supervisor Prodi.
Yes. Now, we make a motion to appoint Kathy Whalen to the position of Deputy Town Clerk, Deputy Tax Collector, Deputy Registrar of Vital Statistics,
At what
at a
rate?
salary of $15 an hour.
And how many hours per week will she be working?
Right now, I have her just 9 to 3, and she may go 15 minutes before and after, so that way she can open and close the office.
So Monday
'Cause
through
that's
Friday?
Monday through Thursday.
Monday through Thursday, sorry. So that's part-time.
Yes, a part-time,
Considered
that's why we did the hourly.
Okay. I'd second that.
I think we need a date.
We need a date.
When does she begin?
When did she start training?
She started training on the 2nd. She came in, she has visited the office on 3 separate occasions, just for 2 or 3 hours at a time slot. Her full first of the full week will be the 21st of this month. She needed 2 weeks before she could commit
Okay.
to a full week schedule, but
So as of the 21st?
if you want to do as of the 21st,
Okay, as of April 21st.
Is she being paid for the,
she'll have to do voucher.
okay.
Yeah. I didn't know if you wanted to do tonight or the 21st. I mean, she'll commit and start working. She's going to
She'll
work one
actually
day
be
next week.
working all of the hours she's scheduled to work starting the 21st.
Yes.
Okay, well, they'll leave it at the 21st.
Okay.
As long as she gets her money.
Councilman Delango?
Yes.
Is there a second?
I did.
Doyle.
Okay.
Councilwoman Hitzelberger?
Yes.
Councilwoman
Yes.
Doyle? No. Councilman Brody and Supervisor
Yes,
Brody.
I'll vote
I like
yes.
when she's on this side.
Yes?
Yes. I also have the minutes from March 27th and April 1st. Did you guys have time to review those?
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes for Tuesday, April 1st,
Second.
Thursday, March 27th,
Can we not put them together?
Just those two.
yeah, 2014.
2 separate motions? 'Cause
Okay, for the Tuesday, April 1st, 2014.
I'll second.
First. Councilman Delango?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hitzelberger?
Yes.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes.
Councilman Brody?
Yes.
And Supervisor Brody.
Yes.
And then for minutes for March 27th.
I make a motion that we approve the Thursday, March 27th, 2014 Town Board Special Meeting minutes.
I'll second that.
Councilman Delango?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hitzelberger?
Abstain.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes.
Councilman Prody?
Yes.
And Supervisor Prody.
Yes. Okay, and we need to vote to accept the court records and dockets. So I make a resolution that the court records and dockets under the Uniform Justice Court Act have been provided, and that such records have been examined and audited and will be entered into the minutes of the board proceedings for 2013. A second?
I'll second.
Councilman Delango?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hitzelberger?
Yes.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes.
Councilman Prody?
Yep.
And Supervisor Prody.
Yes. Okay, is that everything for town clerk? I think we've
I
covered.
think we covered everything.
Okay, highway department report,
you.
there'll be a report next month for highway. Building department report.
Building Department report submitted by John Fenton. Town board members, please find March's monthly report for the Building Department. As building permit goes, we have issued 2 new building permits at a cost of $475, along with 1 renewal permit at $175, and a signed permit of $80, which totals $730. We are continuing with certificate of occupancy searches, and for this month, we did 9 searches, which totals $1,400. And fire inspections, we did 6 inspections, which totaled $850. The total for the month of March was $2,980. Sincerely, John Fenton, Code Enforcement Officer.
Okay, is there anything else?
That's it.
Okay. Grant report, there will be a grant report at the next meeting. Committee reports. Actually, I had a request from the assessor that the Office of Real Property is coming out with a new version, and the computer that they have will not be compatible with it, and it needs to be upgraded. And they wanted to get approval for a new computer. They worked through BAS and got a quote of $798. One of the problems with their computer is that the operating system is XP, which will no longer be fixed if anything happens to it. And it also has Microsoft Office 2003, and that also needs to be upgraded. So the bid is $798, which is state bid.
Did they took the monitor off the bid?
Did they take the monitor off?
Yeah, we asked them, we need a new CPU with the operating system, but we don't need a new monitor. The monitor's fine.
I don't see a monitor on here.
Great.
I don't see where there's,
It's right here.
is there a monitor?
Yeah, they need to take that off. We'd spoken to them about that.
Okay. So to make a resolution for the assessor to be able to order a new computer minus the monitor, so that Office of Real Property can can be loaded onto a new computer.
Second.
The new version.
Councilman Delango?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hitzelberger?
Yes.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes.
Councilman Prody?
Yes.
And Supervisor Prody.
And the water department, we For the water committee, we had a meeting last night, and we had a demonstration of a new water and sewer billing company, Williamson Law Book Company. We're going to be looking at other companies for water billing software. One of the things we found that this particular software has, there wasn't a way to make any changes to the tax levy once it was once the report was run. You know, if someone, you know, paid their water bill at the last minute, there wasn't any way to make an adjustment for that. On this other software that we looked at, you could make an adjustment for that, and it was more user-friendly than what we currently have. So we'll be looking at other companies and do pros and cons with each of the company, and compare to our current company, which has severe limitations.
Was that a transactionally secure system? Like you put in a transaction, once that transaction's in, it can be modified, but the fact that, and you can delete the amount, but you can't delete the fact that a transaction was under?
No, there's always a record of the transaction.
Okay,
I
so-
mean, even if you took something out, there's still the record.
That it was put in and then taken out?
Yes.
Great.
Okay, are there any other committee reports?
The CAC is sponsoring a cleanup on Saturday, this Saturday, from 9:30 until 1. And you can get garbage bags, contractor bags from either the center of town at Fountain Square or Town Hall at the town clerk's office. And Stephen is demonstrating how fabulous these contractor bags are. I know you'll want to participate. So they'll be free to people who are willing to pick up roadside litter or garbage. So the contractor bags will be here with the town clerk during town operation. You won't be open tomorrow. But you can get them here at the town hall at 9:30 or at the center of town at Fountain Square on the bench right by the fountain at 9:30, or in the center of Wassaic at Borden Park on the picnic table right by the railroad tracks, so on Furnace Bank Road. There'll be groups of people working in Wassaic on the little Borden Park, and there'll be another group working in the center of town, taking down the old Christmas trees and tidying up the Fountain Square area. So join in, or you can do your own thing. All the trash can go, household roadside trash can go to the transfer station until 1 o'clock and be taken in for free. So Welsh is honoring that tradition that we have for Cleanup Day. The Cleanup Day will continue on because different groups have different timing. For instance, Smithfield is going to do at the end of the month. And if you let us know if there's a large group cleanup plan for another time, I might be able to get Welsh to agree to take our contractor bags in at that time. If you have a large item you see by, a TV or something has been disposed of on the side of the road, you can call me on my cell phone and we'll get the Wassaic Peace truck to come by and pick it up. So that's at 845-489-7826. And so you can call me and I'll call the Peace truck and tell me the location, and he'll swing by and pick it up before noon on Saturday, the 12th. Thank you.
Any other committee reports? No? Tori?
Hello, Chris Klingner, Amenia Recreation. Just want to remind everybody this Saturday's Easter egg hunt here at the town hall. Easter egg hunt part will start at 10 o'clock. Please show up about 9:45. They usually go really quick. From 10 to 12, there'll be activities, face painting, movie, and I think it's going to be hop, and then some crafts. And then April 13th over at Beekman Park, there's a cleanup day. Anybody who has some free time, please show up. It'll be at 10 a.m. April 19th, opening day of baseball. We will have a parade. It'll start at the firehouse, end up over at Beekman Park. Lineup will be at 8:30. The parade will start around 9. And then my last thing is the adult basketball open gym. Fridays is 5 to 8. We moved it up to the Weewatuck High School. Just too many people, too many grown adults in our small gym. Didn't want anybody to get hurt. And then Sundays it'll still be here, 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. And that's it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we have resolution number 10. Transfer of funds. Whereas the town board has the authority to transfer funds when necessary or unanticipated to amend the budget. Whereas the town board budget line 7550.4 celebration CE requires an increase of $3,000. Whereas the town board budget line 1900.4 special item CE contingency requires a decrease of $3,000 to help with the costs of the community fireworks. Now therefore be it resolved, the Town of Amenia Town Board authorizes a transfer of $3,000 to help pay for the costs for the community fireworks for the Amenia Fire Company. Whereas the Town Board budget line 8020.4 Planning CE, Planning Rail Trail, requires an increase of $4,520. Whereas the Town Board budget line 1900.4 Special Item CE Contingency requires a decrease of $4,520. Now therefore be it resolved, the Town of Amenia authorize a transfer of $4,520 for additional funds for WSP services. It's further resolved that this resolution shall become effective immediately. Can I make that motion?
I'll second it.
Supervisor Cardy?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hitzelberger?
Yes.
Councilman Cardy?
Yes.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes.
Councilman Delango?
Yes.
Okay, we have a resolution for...
Victoria.
I'm sorry.
I think there was one more committee. You want to wait?
Is there another
So-
committee?
The housing committee?
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay, it's a housing board, so.
Housing board.
Oh, that's
okay.
okay.
But
I'm sorry.
it was nice to see Silo Ridge's presentation, and so now the housing board needs to go to work and start working on, since I understand they do not want to do affordable housing, that we have to come up with in lieu of payment. So I know I've spoken to Attorney Fitzpatrick, and we are reaching out to Ann Saylor from Dutchess County Planning Board. That's where we are right now. And waiting for, we're going to ask for her help in determining, or what direction we should go forward in determining that amount. And that's where we are right now.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a resolution for use and occupancy permit 82415 for the Old Amenia landfill project. The purpose of this permit is for the use of state-owned property. On the Old Amenia landfill site, the fence that is there was installed under an existing highway work permit. The fence that's there is partly on town property where the gate is, and part of it is on the DOT right-of-way. So now that it is going to be permanent is why we need the use and occupancy permit. One of the issues with this permit is that there's a pole and electrical panel there. So we need to decide tonight whether to keep it there or to have it removed, as utilities are usually not included in the use and occupancy permit. It doesn't serve any purpose. The Old Amenia landfill site is eventually is Thomas Young Park, and it's going to be a passive use. Will be trails and, maybe some signage. So there's really no need for the pole and electrical panel there. So we need to vote on whether to have to keep it or have it removed.
How much is it to have it removed?
I don't know. But if we keep it, then the use and occupancy permit has to be updated. Is that correct?
It has to be revised from what the state has sent over, because they've provided for the monitoring well with casing, for the fence, and for no other purpose. So, and this was checked, I talked with Liz Rovers, and she did speak with DOT. And if the pole and the panel are going to remain, the permit has to be revised. Otherwise, the town would be in violation of the terms of the permit as it's been sent over by DOT.
What was Liz's bottom line recommendation for us knowing that what we want the park to ultimately? I couldn't read between the lines and
As
see
far
what
as the
she
pole and the
recommended.
panel?
Yeah.
She didn't really have a recommendation either way. She said if you leave it there, it's there in the event you have need for it in the future. But if you're pretty much finished with the closure on the landfill,
It's a liability.
and my understanding, she said that the contractor supposedly notified New York State Gas and Electric to terminate the service anyway. The concern I had is if you leave it there, just making sure that it's safe. Now, if the service is turned off, you probably wouldn't have a risk of, electric, if somebody messed with it.
Well, I don't think we're taking the pole out, we're just removing, the actual electrical part of it.
Well, but even if you leave the pole, it will require DOT to amend the permit, because otherwise you're
So
going
we
to
have
be
to
in
take both of them
violation.
out.
Yes, yeah. And the other thing is, if you leave it there, and then the contractor finishes the work and leaves, and you had a problem in the future, and you had to remove it, then you'd have to have someone come back. You'd have to pay a contractor to come back and remove it.
We're going to have to pay a contractor to take it down then? Or is that part of the contractor's job?
It
That's the
may be
question.
part of the original.
That's the
Yeah.
question,
You
whether
know
or
what
not
I
it's his
mean?
responsibility.
Is it the contractor put it up, he got paid to put it up, is it his responsibility to take it down?
I don't know if he put it up.
He
It's been
did.
there.
According to Liz Rovers.
If he put
The
it up, then
contractor
he
put
needs
it
to
up.
take it down. That would be part of his,
Yeah, it may be, I don't know, I haven't seen that contract, but it may be part of that contract.
I think we need to find that out, find out how much it's going to cost to take it out.
No, if they're
Well,
gonna-
it's whether it's part of his original contractor, he
Right.
put it in.
Yeah,
So if we
got
could
the
just find out
contract.
how much, if we have to pay or if we don't have to pay, that would be.
well, the contractors, we're paying the contractor anyway.
Right, but it might be part of his requirements in his contract to provide that.
And it might cost extra.
Yeah. So I would definitely figure out what our cost, if that's an additional charge, or whether the contractor absorbs it out of his, and what it would cost to amend the contract to allow this structure to be on it. I mean, it seems like it's a,
Yeah, it's not his, it's the use and occupancy permit that would have to be amended. So then you want to hold off on this, the use and
Is it-
occupancy permit, until you make that decision on removal of the pole based upon cost, no cost. I mean, if it's left there, the bottom line is it's left on state property under this use and occupancy permit on an ongoing basis. So I can check with Liz Rovers on the original contract to see if the removal was part of it. I mean, I would think generally if the contractor puts it up to do his
Take it
work,
away.
that it would be included to remove it.
We would hope. Could you? That would be helpful.
Sure.
Yeah,
But now to
well, I think
amend
it
this,
needs to come down anyway.
to amend this permit, is it hard to amend this permit?
DOT has to do it. They
DOT
said they
has
have to
to do it.
recirculate it internally if the pole is going to remain. But if we're going to remove it, I can find out if it's part of the contract or if there's an additional cost and let you know. And then if you're going to remove it, this use and occupancy permit will be fine as it is.
Great.
And we have a bid for concession. So wait a minute, we have Silo Ridge Resort Community consent to seeker lead agency. Name of involved agency is Town of Amenia Town Board. Proposed lead agency is Town of Amenia Planning Board. Preliminary classification of action is type 1. Be on behalf of the Town of Amenia Town Board, I acknowledge receipt of the enclosed notice to designate seeker. Lead agency in this manner, the above named involved agency hereby. Do we want the Town of Amenia Planning Board to act as seeker lead agency? Or do we not consent or not taking any position on lead agency designation? I believe that Town of Amenia Planning Board should be acting as the seeker lead agency in this application.
I would agree.
I would also agree.
Okay, make a resolution that the Amenia Town Board consents to the Town of Amenia Planning Board acting as seeker lead agency in this application for Silo Ridge Resort Community, and requests that the undersigned continue to receive copies of all seeker determinations, seeker documents, and notices in this manner.
I second that.
Councilman Delango?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hitzelberger?
Yes.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes.
Councilman Furby?
Yes.
And Supervisor Curry?
Yes. And I believe we have one bid for the concession stand.
Open it. Wow. Okay. Our applicant name is Dolores Voorhees, 233 South Amenia Road, Wassaic, New York.
There should be a number in there.
There should be a number in here somewhere. Okay. She proposes the sum of $400 to run the food concession stand at Beekman Park in the town of Amenia from May 1st, 2014 through August 31st, 2014.
That's what it's been the last 3 years.
Okay, since that's the only one we have, make a resolution to accept Dolores Voorhees' contract for running the concession stand at Beekman Park.
Do we have, I mean, is there proper permits or anything? Is there any permits involved, Board of Health or anything like that?
If you'd like, you can read the operation of the concession stand that's been used the last couple of years.
Yeah, we have the
Nothing's
attorney
changed.
set up.
Yeah,
the
but I mean, there's
contract.
nothing, they're not like making food, right? I don't think so, right?
Like hamburgers, hot
Yeah.
dogs, yeah, they're cooking, they're providing food for,
But I mean,
They have to have all applicable.
I'm just
Why don't
wondering
we
if
do the
that
whole-
falls under Board of Health.
Why don't we read the whole contract into the record as to what it pertains to and do that? Okay, notice is given that the town of Amenia hereby requests proposals for interested persons in the following operation: the food concession stand at Beekman Park in the town of Amenia from May 1st, 2014 through August 31st, 2014. Background information: Beekman Park is located on State Route 44 in the town of Amenia, New York. Weather permitting, the licensee shall be permitted to operate the concession stand every day from May 1st, 2014 through August 31st, 2014, on which a baseball or softball game or other recreational activity is scheduled by the Town of Amenia Recreation Commission from 1 hour before the scheduled starting time every such game to 1 hour after every such game ends. The successful applicant will be required to enter into a license agreement with the town of Amenia, which shall include, but not be limited to, the following terms and conditions. 1. The successful applicant may sell only food and non-alcoholic beverages at the concession stand and only at a reasonable competitive prices. 2. Beekman Park is a totally smoke-free area. 3. The successful applicant shall secure and keep general liability insurance as well as workers' compensation and disability benefit insurance in the amounts required by New York State law. A certificate of insurance shall be required prior to execution of the license agreement. Necessary equipment other than that provided by the town of Amenia shall be provided by the successful applicant and insured by the successful applicant. If covered is desired, the licensee shall use reasonable and diligent care in using and maintaining the concession stand and equipment in a good condition, as good as at present, ordinary wear and usage expected. At the time that the license agreement is executed, the successful applicant shall also be required to post a security deposit with the clerk of the town of Amenia in the amount acceptable to the town board. If the concession stand and equipment is returned in good condition, as good as at present, ordinary wear and usage accepted, said deposit shall be returned to the successful applicant. 5. The town of Amenia reserves the right to terminate or revoke the license agreement at any time and for any reason, subject to the successful applicant's right to recover a prorated portion of the license fee in the event of a termination or revocation without cause. Submission requirements. Sealed proposals must be marked. Operation of a food concession stand at Beekman Park Ball Field in the town of Amenia from May 1st, 2014 through August 31st, 2014, and must be delivered in duplicate in writing to the town clerk, Town of Amenia Town Hall, 4988 Route 22, Amenia, New York, 12501, no later than 12 p.m. on March 12, 2014. All proposals must include a copy of a non-collusion certificate signed by the person or the head of the organization submitting the proposal. Selection. Proposals will be publicly opened and read at in the town hall, 4988 Route 22, Amenia, New York, at 7 p.m. on March 13th, 2014. Well, of course, it was read today. And I'm just reading the whole thing, just as a record. And therefore, be considered by the town board. And then we reserve the right to reject all proposals, the town board, and any part thereof, to consider the reputation of the applicant in making its selection, to waive any informalities or minor deviations herefrom, and to select other than the highest applicant if the selected proposal is deemed to be in the best interest of the town of Amenia.
I think we can accept the contract with the caveat that the concession stand owner must meet all Department of Health approvals.
Yep.
And insurance.
Well, and that's part of the contract. Has to meet all contract requirements.
I'll second that if it hasn't been.
Councilman Malenko?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hitzelberger?
Yes.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes.
Supervisor Crody?
Yes.
And then Councilman Brody.
Yes.
I'm going to give the next one to... There's two.
Two? Okay. So these are
Everybody
the
can take turns.
mowing
Those
bids
are your mowing bids.
for 2014. This is for Douglas Westfall. He bids $9,750. BDW, okay. And then an alternative bid for weeds to be removed with a string trimmer. And he would not be doing that with spraying or herbicides. That would be $750 additionally to have weed removal done along both sides of East Main to the traffic light, Route 22 from Immaculate Conception to Amenia Town Hall, every 2 weeks at the location specified. That would be from May through November. Okay, so, got that one. Okay, our second bid is from, Jeffrey Johnson, Jeff's Lawn Mowing Service, 9 Lango Road, Amenia. He has bid $9,985, and the alternative bid is $1,100 for weed removal. He had done weed removal in the past when he had the contract. So $9,985 versus $9,750. So Doug Westfall is the low bid, and he will do weed removal for an additional $750 every 2 weeks with a weed string trimmer. I make a motion that we accept the low bid. Doug Westfall, he's at 5 Park Street, Millerton, New York. He's provided his insurance forms, and it's $9,750 for the mowing and $750 for the weed removal,
And the sidewalks?
for the sidewalk weed removal.
Okay. I second.
Is there a reason why people can't clean up their own sidewalks?
We have been hoping and encouraging volunteers to do so. Some people do, some people don't, so half of the town looks weedy and half of it doesn't. So it seems like it's like the snow removal. If we want to make sure it's done, and it's done on a timely basis, that's something that, we'll decide. But if we feel $750 is not a good way of paying taxpayer dollars to ensure that it's done on a timely basis, on a regular basis, I'm fine with that too. But I think for $750, we put in a lot of nice benches, we put in nice planters, we're trying our very, very best to, make the town look good at Christmas time, and now at 4th of July, when our heaviest traffic is, our pedestrians come out for the 4th of July parade, it's at its worst. The weeds are high in Amenia. And I think it's a sad reality that I don't think that we have enough volunteers to do that every 2 weeks. I mean, I'd be happy doing it once a month, but for $750, that's a really good price. I think we've done it in the past for closer to $1,000 or $2,000. So I think $750 is a good thing. I think we should try it and see if it's worthwhile. If it doesn't feel like that's a good use of our funds, we shouldn't do it again. But I'd argue this time to go ahead and give it a try.
Is he going to pick up the weeds after he's done whacking them?
Weed removal to be done with a string trimmer. He doesn't have permits for spraying or herbicides. It doesn't say, weed removal shall be conducted following all local, state, and federal laws. It does not have a description other than provide weed removal to sidewalks every 2 weeks. Removal of weeds, I hope means that he doesn't leave
That
them.
he's gonna take.
Does the other one specify?
Let's see, my other bid was, I think I stuck it back in there. I don't think so. It just was a one,
I think you have it there.
it's a part of it.
That's his.
Oh, I see, the 1,100, it's, all he says is I did weed removal a couple of years ago when I had the contract. And I don't recall whether or not he took away the dead weeds or not.
Well, I don't remember seeing weeds left there after people
I don't
cut
either,
them.
no.
And that bid is below budget.
And it's within our budget, that's correct.
It is within the budget, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yes.
Councilwoman Hinselberger?
No.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes.
Councilman Prody?
Yes.
And Supervisor Prody?
Yes. So we've advertised for an open housing board seat, and
I've gotten no letters of interest and no response at this time.
now where is it advertised?
It was in the Millerton News.
Press
It
release?
is a press release, not as a legal ad.
Okay,
It's on our website.
and is it on Channel 22?
Yeah, sent it to the whole group.
Well, why don't we just
Do it again.
do it again?
Are you being amplified there?
Can you hear me?
You need to swing that over so people can hear you. We really need people to serve on our housing board. The time is really nigh, and it's an important, very, very important job. So if you are considering volunteering with the town, that's a great job. Sue Gregory is the chair. I see it's not in the roster yet, but she is the chair of that housing board. So you can talk to her, you can talk to any of us about what it entails.
There are several open seats on that per the email that I sent everyone.
Can you announce them? Can you remember them all?
Was it 2 or 3 that was open? Was it
Well, you
3?
can have up to 7 on the board. I mean,
So,
right now, there's 4 people on it.
Current.
so there was 3 per that email I sent.
Yeah, but technically, we could have 7 or we could have 5.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, animal control position. Our new animal control officer is Mark Moore. If you need to reach him, he's at 845-514-3040. And that number will be on Channel 22 and also on our website. Secretary for Planning Board position. Right now, the planning board is very, very busy between Silo Ridge. There's also someone who bought the Brookside property and is planning to put retail. There's a new business on Mechanic Street. And Sue Metcalf, who has been doing a lot of the work, was away for 3 months. And during that time, we selected alternate Larissa Durlango to do the work, who pretty much hit the ground running and has done a lot of the planning board work. I have been working with the county with job titles, and Sue Metcalf is at the county as Secretary to Zoning Board of Appeals. I spoke to her, and she would like to stay Secretary to Zoning Board of Appeals, and will also be taking on other zoning responsibilities with her job. We do have 2 separate line items in the budget for personal service, one for Zoning Board of Appeals, one for planning, Secretary to the Planning Board. And according to the county, we have a vacant part-time secretary position to the Planning Board. Since we do have this in the budget, because of the activity, we really need someone in that position. And Larissa Dulango has been admirably and working very hard as, doing a lot of the planning board work. So what I would like to do is to appoint her as secretary to the planning board to continue doing the planning board work with the Silo Ridge application and the multiple applications that we currently have. So I would like to make a resolution to hire Larissa Dulango at $15 an hour to be the part-time secretary to the planning board.
So you believe that the 2 of them working at the same time would still fall within our budgeted
Yes.
items? So is Sue comfortable handing
Absolutely.
over these reins? Okay.
Yeah, I met with her, and she's, looking, she's looking to taking on, you know, some of the zoning work that's out there, because there's a lot of activity in that particular office right now.
So she would be handling everything but Silo Ridge, and Larissa would be
No, what she
concentrating
would be
more?
working, she'd be secretary to the zoning board of appeals,
Right.
do the minutes,
Right.
and anything to do, because the zoning board of appeals is meeting more than it usually does now. It's had several issues. And then she would also be doing zoning, you know.
More of the work Lana
with
used to do.
Yeah,
repairing.
with John Fenton.
Okay. If, I'd second that.
Councilman Blanco?
I have to excuse myself on this one.
Councilwoman Hitzelberger?
Yes.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes.
Councilman Perotti?
Yes.
And Supervisor Perotti?
Yes. Is there public comment?
You can always come up.
Sue Gregory, Depot Hill. When Bill Flood was the supervisor, we had talked about maybe doing a dog census, now that the town is responsible for licensing. And I was wondering if maybe you could consider that, because maybe we could do a rabies clinic, you know, go over the rules and regulations of owning a dog in this town, which would be very helpful.
That's a very good idea.
So, you know, I'd be willing to help the dog control officer. I could maybe set up a rabies clinic, you know, next
That's a
spring.
great idea.
We did it one year in Wasaga at the firehouse, and it was very good. They had all the electricity they needed in their machines, and they printed out a rabies certificate right then and there for $10 or whatever it was. Very affordable.
Yeah, and you can bring a cat or a ferret, I think.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
so, I mean, it may be something for next spring to think about, but I think a dog census is necessary. It's revenue for the town. They're supposed to be licensed anyway, so.
I just want to touch on that, since that is my department. I spoke with Mark the other day as he was turning in his personnel paperwork. He stopped in the office, and I already had that conversation with him, letting him,
Great.
you know, showing him everything, how I have lists to keep him up. And I had suggested that we do the annual rabies, if he would be willing to, you know, be here so everyone can kind of get to know him.
Yeah.
There was one just in Stanfordville this past month.
Mhm.
So I started that with the new dog officer the other day, and we started having those
That's good.
conversations, so I will add you to the team.
Yeah, we did one in Millbrook a long time ago,
Yeah.
Dr. Jager, and, you know, it's really good because you know, you don't have to go to your veterinarian, and it's lower cost, and you know, you want to protect against rabies, so.
One of the town clerks, we discussed this at a meeting last year, and one of the easiest way that they found for everyone to reply back is when I'm sending out the taxes, that we add an insert during tax season, that way we're hitting the mass part of the community, everyone gets a tax bill, and we can try to start from there.
Yeah.
And then he would be the one that would actually have to initiate that. But Gretchen and I had spoke in great length last year. Tractor Supply does an event, and we were going to try to do something all in the same time frame. So you'll definitely be included in
Yeah,
those
I think most
conversations.
towns do them in May, in the
Yeah.
spring, so, okay, great.
Okay, thanks.
Public comment?
Tom Werner, Amenia. You passed or the resolution for the pole,
Excuse me?
the resolution in the old landfill for the pole. That sets about 10 foot on the state property now.
Right.
So
We
For
didn't
us,
pass that, we didn't do the
they
resolution.
were illegal when they put it in there.
Well, it was my understanding from Liz Rovers at CT Mail that it was put in on consent under that original contract.
Yes,
that the
under
state
the
was-
work order.
That the state was aware, you know, the work.
Yeah, the
permit.
state was aware of it because the original permit that we had to have while we were even working on it.
It
Was, you know,
it was a temporary
was
installation.
the existing highway work permit, while they were doing the work on there, I mean, that's when the fence was installed. So in order for that part of the fence to be a permanent fixture there, that's why we need the use and occupancy permit for the DOT.
That's fine, except that I don't think there's any question about who has to remove it. And it is an eyesore. It's terrible. Any pole is, but that one was in particular.
Okay.
And you accepted this lawn bid?
Excuse me?
You accepted the lawn bid?
Yes.
Are they aware of the fact that it's a prevailing wage?
They're contractors.
I'm sorry?
They submit bids, that's, I mean,
Well, I just want to know if they knew that
let's see what is.
any tax money that's spent has to be.
It's just he himself, so I don't think if he's not paying
If it's
anybody.
one man, fine.
Well, he's paying himself prevailing wages, I assume. I don't know.
I know in the past it's been a one-man operation and it was no problem.
Okay.
But you got a new person coming in. So I think you should advise him.
Is it?
It didn't say it in the,
The gentleman is familiar with the town. That gentleman works for Woodstock Central School Districts, and he used to do maintenance here on this property. So this is probably the largest area of Homo, so he's familiar with this parcel very much so. I think he can mow it with his eyes closed.
I
Well,
didn't know what
he's
it
more
was.
concerned about prevailing wage, which is only for municipalities, not the school district. So we'll look into that.
Okay. And you didn't, excuse me, there's one other thing that hit me just odd, is that Sue's job that you're changing, you didn't advertise it or anything, you just accepted it.
She has
Sue
been
has
working
had,
for
that's
us.
what she's been doing
Yeah.
for years. That's what she's actually on the county roster as. So she didn't change anything.
Well,
She was doing planning board work in addition to
all
that.
right, listen, I don't want to be controversial, I just wondered why it wasn't advertised. Thank you.
Town board comments?
Nothing really, working on the air conditioners. Trying to get that thing, get that figured out, what we have, what we don't have. We are going to do, some sort of window unit or floor unit, just to get us through the summer so we're not up against getting the bids in and everything for the actual system.
Can I recommend that if we go with, if we could go with floor units, because then they can be like moved around
The
where
problem
we
with
need them?
the problem with the floor units is the BTUs. All right, basically a room this size, the biggest floor unit we could get is 14,000 BTUs. It only handles 525 square feet. All right, the rooms with the high ceilings and everything, we're just touching about 1,000. Now, my worry is with the portable air conditions, the BTUs, because they're portable, it drops down the square footage. All right, we could get a 15,000 BTU window unit that covers 1,000 square feet. So now we only have one unit, one cost of electricity. That's why I'm looking more into the window unit side of it, but it's still open for, suggestions.
So that's not going to help us with heating. It's not a heating cooling system.
It's not heating, cooling. There are some units that I did look into that are heating and cooling dual, but the problem that I'm having is we go into the commercial electric, the 220 volts. not the 115 anymore.
I see.
All right. So now, for us to bring a 220 line into this room, not cost effective
I
for
see.
temporary cooling or
Wow.
heating.
Wow,
So
that's our limitation.
we are on it. I mean, I should know exactly which way we're going to go by the next board meeting, because we got to get this moving. I've looked all over. I am trying to keep it local, buying it. So if the prices come in right, that's, basically how we're going to do it.
The existing AC units are not sufficient?
We
for the-
have to go through them and find out exactly what there are. Most of the units, from my understanding, are only 6,000 BTUs. They're very small units.
They weren't
They
set
weren't
for the
empowered
room
on that.
size.
Yeah.
Last year, they were failing, and there were some issues with some of the employees.
So basically, we're going to find out what's good and what's not good. The ones that are good, we'll use,
Somewhere.
in
Right.
different parts of the building that don't get as much use, maybe.
Yeah.
It's, unfortunately, we have to do it. So we're just going to do it the best way that we can, and go from there.
Is there any other town board comments?
Yeah, I'd like to bring up the playground issue. We did have a recreation committee meeting, and as far as DEC and everything else, I know that Mike was there for the site visit, and I know that supervisor was you were there, and then but my concern at this point is, if we need to have an architect do some work in order to get us moving forward with this, as far as in delineating where the wetlands are and everything else. And of course, that does cost money, and as the governing body, we're the ones that would be authorizing to spend that money. And from my standpoint, if we're going to be going this direction, why don't we just come out and support the project? The plans have been done for the playground. Maybe make it contingent on getting the DEC permits.
Well, nothing's going to happen without the DEC permit, and that's what has to be in it. It has to be the plan. The part of the permit has to have what's currently there now. What's the plan to go in it? What is the plan for taking the sand out? What type of equipment? I mean, it has to be very detailed, and I believe John Fenton is working on that with the Recreation Commission. So that's about where we are with that.
Yeah, but we need to start moving. We need to start moving forward. We're going to need that architect to do that work.
Might be more of an engineer than an architect,
Or-
maybe. We'll see. But I think we need to see, as John Fenton and Chris work on it, we'll have to see. I mean, the thing about the DEC permit, since it is a wetland, everything has to be very detailed. Not only, how you're going to remove the sand, where you're going to put it, what is the plan. There's also a problem with drainage from the roof. So, I mean, one of the things that was suggested by Heather Gearloff from the DEC was to possibly put a rain garden there. So all of these items need to be looked in before we can really move ahead, and I believe John Fenton is working on that with the commission. And also the liaisons to the Recreation Commission.
Yeah, and I'm one of the liaisons. And I know, Chris, is there anything that you can shed as far as where you guys are at so far?
I know that we're sitting at a spot where, I guess Darlene was approached and she recommended a landscape architect, I guess somebody that's done some work for us in the past and who has a good rapport with DEC. And that's who she recommended. I don't remember the name. I know Larissa knows the person's name. And if that's who we have to go with, I still think if they have a good rapport with DEC, then maybe we need possibly find out what the fees are and hire that person so we can move forward. If we're just gonna sit stagnant, then we're not gonna get anywhere.
So is that something you'll be doing, or?
I actually, at a recreation meeting, amongst all of us, we came up that Larissa's going to be our lead for the DEC in that whole process right there. Since she does work in the office with John, and she does have more one-on-one with what's going on, I felt it was probably better that she stays with that instead of me trying to get a hold of John every 2 minutes, and she's going to report back to us. We felt that that was going to be an easier solution to everything. But I do think we need, if that's the way we're going to go, I think we do need to move forward. That's just another step before we even get the permits filed. And if we can't get at least that baby step, then we're not going to get anywhere. And then, unfortunately, another year's gone by.
Do you have money in the budget?
There's
I
always
mean,
money
is
somewhere.
there is money in
But you
that
don't know.
fund though, if we have to hire an engineer, an
I'm
architect?
sure there's money somewhere that could be found. Without a budget in front of me, I can't say definitely yes. This was something that just came, that I just learned about the other day. But I guess that's just where we are.
I mean, Victoria, from my understanding, we had to complete that drawing for the permit, right?
Right.
So we have to have that architect or engineer or whatever it is
You
to,
have to have someone to do the, to do the detailed drawings for the, and to do the plan for,
Right, and that was
for the
that
permit.
that gentleman
The permit
that
is very,
that was the gentleman
very detailed.
that Darlene recommended. And I wish I could remember his name.
Mark Morrison, because he did the work for free for us down
Right.
in
No, that
Passaic.
wasn't, but I forgot about Mark. That's
He is
another
a
good,
landscape
that's another good one to
architect.
go with.
He
well, we
does
should
have
try to
a
round
stamp.
up some of these people and see what the cost is going to be to write this plan up.
Right.
You
We
know,
have very
so,
talented people. who-
And I know John said he has his part finished. I have to get him all the information that I have. The rest is that survey. It's just that site plan of that area back there. So I can get him the information I have, then we're just stuck on that site plan again.
Because,
That
I mean-
goes back to that architect.
I know the DEC was talking about a buffer between the wetlands and the playground itself,
We'd love to do it,
um, so,
And then, again, you can go back to, if you weren't going to disperse that water down that way, again, I'll go back to that beautiful gardens that we have going around the building. Maybe containing that water and using that water that we're not going to have to get from the town and water our perfect gardens that are going to be around here. That's a great option, and it's just a container out there.
So
that
rain
those-
barrel, rain
yeah,
barrel. Yeah.
those pipes can go into. It's just a solution. It doesn't have to be the one, but try to get as many ideas out there as possible.
Did you want to say something, Norm?
Well, just an idea. Why not just move the playground over out of the DEC wetland area?
it's not going to happen. You need a
No.
100-foot buffer.
100 foot's not that far. I mean, if you come around the corner here, you're off it.
Worried about putting it in the middle where it's lower, because it gets wet down there where that path is. Where the playground is now, it is a little higher, the water's not collecting. Now, the thing is, if you move it off that 100-foot barrier and go more into the middle of the
Right, but
the
you can
field,
you can build it up, though.
but now you have the cost of building it up. Now you have to truck in all this fill and everything else.
But you're not doing DEC, you're not taking out sand, you're not worried about the drainage.
From what I'm understanding with DEC, it's a procedure. And dealing with DEC, the procedure is pretty entailed. But from what she was saying, she doesn't see an issue as long as we follow the procedure.
Yeah, it's pretty much getting the permit in.
So she doesn't foresee a problem as long as we follow the procedure. So the thing is getting the procedure the right way.
Well, it
And
sounds like you're talking about it's going to take a long time to get it all done. And if time's a factor, that's good.
Do we need a stamp from the landscape architect? Is the plan meeting is it required to have an engineer or an architect or a landscape architect stamp the plan?
it's required by DEC to have
Have a plan.
a plan. We have the playground plan with all the footings and
Right, but it's
everything,
not good enough.
but we don't have the barriers and the buffers and stuff like that. So that's where we need the plan to
To that
the
level. Yeah.
whatever, the plan engineer or architect or however you want to put it.
There also has to be drawings for everything existing, but they
Yeah.
also want a specific plan for what we're doing with the sand, too.
If you don't
And the
mind,
water.
I've worked on that for quite a while as well. And you can't, I think Norm was around when they did the extension on the tennis court. You know, the fire department did that, and we got our dang ringer because they didn't get the permit. And they wanted to remove the whole dang fence and everything. But
Well, they had to get a permit just to put the fence up.
I know that was later. Don't know which one, the cart before the horse, one or the other. But our property goes beyond that fence. What I'm sure that you got a survey when you gave them the dollar that shows where the boundaries are. And it's beyond the fence that's up there.
You
Because
mean in back of the fence?
the fence is,
She said there's no way we could put anything back there, because that's the wetland.
that's right. But we own it. The school owns it, or the town hall owns
Yes, we do, but we can't do anything in there.
it. I agree. But that's where
That's
you
what
start.
she told us.
You have to have that in your plan. And you cannot drain any of it off into that brook. It's got to stay on.
She
Okay.
told us that, and we're not planning to put any water, have any piping or put the water in the wetland.
And
She
the-
made it pretty clear that that was not an option.
And that same thing is going to prevail when they come over and try to do something with the library. It's right there in it. The drain pipes are in there, right behind the church. And that's where I understand that they bought the land for the library to expand on.
I won't know about that.
Well, I just meant when you're doing one, don't let the other one slip through the fingers and then they spend a couple $100,000 building a building that can't be.
Well, I'm sure they'll be doing whatever they need to do that. I mean, they have to go through site plan. review.
DEC can be rough. They don't make side deals usually.
Well, we're not making a side deal. We had them come out, we had them look at it, we found out exactly what we needed to do, and that's what we're going to do.
Perfect.
As long as we're doing our due diligence, I don't see, we should be able to, this playground can become a reality. You know, we have a lot of stuff that's going to happen. With Mr. Blackman coming in and doing his presentation and the gift that we just accepted. This is the prime opportunity to do all this and work together to make it happen. It's gonna provide a place for the kids to utilize that playground for the summer program, and not only that, but if we are able to coordinate all of this with the gift from Mr. Blackman, and if we can coordinate all of this, it'll enhance the Amenia Town Hall as a community center, and eventually make us more attractive to be able to attract tenants, which is all the way around a good thing for our community.
Yes, I totally agree with you, Stephen. Just one last thing. Vicki, I know you worked with Mark over, I think, with the Wasaic. Do you think you could talk to him for me?
I'll call Mark Morrison and see if he can come up with some
Maybe-
plans that would satisfy DEC's
All right.
requirements.
Yeah, I just figure anything would help, and I'd,
Yeah.
just like to try to keep just
We
inching
have
forward.
landscape designers also, so if it's not a requirement, I mean, we have a wider pool of,
I think it's just, they just want to see
designers.
the overlay. I don't know if it has to
It
be
shouldn't.
stamped. I wasn't sitting there. I didn't get to read the plans from DEC, but I think it's just a picture and an overall picture of what everything is supposed to be. It's
great,
kind of what it sounded like to me.
okay.
I'm not the professional.
Mark happens to be probably the best.
Mark is the
Neil
best.
is-
Right.
Neil is equally as good.
It's true. I will call him.
Is there any other?
I do have a few things.
Okay.
We were asked to mention that there's a Dutchess County TIC Task Force Education Forum on Wednesday, May 14th at 10 a.m. at the Pleasant Valley Fire Department, 1618 Main Street, Pleasant Valley. There are 5 featured speakers, a medical doctor, Dr. Richard Osfeld, a disease ecologist, Andrew Rodens, public health advisor, several public health advisors from the Department of Health, and Jill Auerbach, a chairwoman for the Hudson Valley Lyme Disease Association. So come to that. We do have Memorial Day plans cooking, and I thank our town clerk for helping contact all the different groups and round them up. So Monday, May 26th, 11 a.m. at Fountain Square is what we expect to be doing. I have Terry Gipson, that's the P one, our state senator, coming down to give the keynote speech. And are you going to be there also?
Yes.
To welcome everybody? So VFW Post 5444, ourselves, the firemen, and the Cub Scouts Group Pack 29 will all gather together, so we're working on that. I got a dance donation for our program this year, $250 private donation, so I'll have that earmarked for the dance instructor. I will need to have you authorize my request this year for $3,000 for the dance program from Berkshire Taconic Community Foundation, the Northeast Dutchess Fund. I'm asking for more than I did last year. The maximum is 3 because I would like to get a black curtain, as the proposed new dance instructor requested, that would go on the back of the stage so that you could walk behind it without showing people that you're walking to the other side, and would help with the noise. And I did look online. It looks like something between, $900 to $1,000 on eBay. Somewhere I think we can come up with it. So that's where I would put the extra $1,000 if we were able to do that. The proposed teacher I'm considering and would brought up to the town recreation committee's ideas was Heather Holohan. That's her unmarried name. So she works at, she runs the Studio by Fudgies, Route 22, Studio 22. So she would be doing a dance program similar to ours, only adding theater arts as well. And she has a program that's ready to go called Musical Milestones that would fit right into it. She's saving Saturdays, September through December for us. So if everybody's okay with that, I would go ahead and write that into our grant application due April 15th. So my motion is that we hire Heather Holohan, I don't know her, the instructor from Route 22 Studio, to be the dance instructor this year at the same rate of pay as our previous one, who is unable to do so this year.
A second.
And did I say authorize me to write for $3,000? Okay.
That's Berkshire's grant one, right?
Right.
Councilman Delango?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hitzelberger?
Yes.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes.
Councilman Perotti?
Yes.
And Supervisor Perotti?
Yes.
Thank you. And then the last thing I was going to say is we did bring up at the Recreation Committee meeting that there are benches and picnic tables over at the Taconic DDSO that we would like to write to our Congress, or to our state Assemblywoman Dee Dee Barrett and ask Terry Gipson, our state senator, to please consider getting Amenia the picnic tables and the benches And we know that they are required to have the certain tier of offering it to other state agencies and such, and that we be at the bottom of the pile, but we asked them to intercede for us and perhaps take them back themselves and then donate them to Town of Amenia, since we've been such a good neighbor for so many years. So I would ask that you all agree to request that from our representatives in Albany.
Hey, are you doing a letter or?
Yeah, I'd write a letter and
you want
say
me to
that,
Sign it?
yeah, and authorize the supervisor to sign it.
Might maybe include the governor's office in there as well.
Yes, now that I have a contact there.
Okay. That's all I have.
Does anyone else have public comment?
I have
One
town
thing-
board comment.
Or town board comment?
I just wanted to ask, you want to work on the fee in lieu of the workforce housing. And I had spoken with Dave Everett
Can you
about it
speak
also.
into, yeah, 'cause people out there need to know.
So I just want to make sure, does the board want to pursue the analysis by the county planning department? Ann Saylor had indicated to me that they may be able to do the analysis for free. She wasn't sure at that point, they were quite busy. But if so, that certainly would eliminate a cost to the town in getting that analysis done. It doesn't preclude the town from also retaining an economist to come up with some reasonable figure for the fee in lieu of the workforce housing. So that's, up to you how you want to proceed.
So that's something we should vote on to,
If that's the avenue, if you want to pursue it with the county planning. And again, I guess Sue Gregory is going to work on that, and you'd have to verify whether or not there will be any kind of fee or not, whether they're waiving the fee. I think they would like to do it without charge, and Ms. Gregory had indicated they had done an analysis for the town some years ago, but the figures would be outdated at this point. So
at no charge, or we don't know?
They did it with the Affordable Housing Committee, Hudson River Housing. This would be a little bit different.
This would be different.
Right, and I know that Silo Ridge had done their own analysis and presented it, but then everything just kind of flatlined and it went nowhere. So we have to start the process over. I think the first thing we have to do is talk to Ann Saylor and see if it's a possibility, and then go from there.
So you'll be doing that with Sue so that we can research this to see if, if
We can
this is the way,
coordinate.
coordinate.
Ann Saylor thought that, assuming we get moving with her, that they could get something around April 18th. Now, we've had a little time pass since I spoke with her, but she thought they could get something, together within that time frame in April. And
That sounds great.
Dave Everett said that the planning board is probably around 3 months out to approvals. So he thought you had room to work with, in getting your analysis done so that you can get that fee determined.
Yeah, I think
So is
let-
it something we should
let her
move
go
ahead with
first.
then?
Well, I think we should pursue the Dutchess County
Yeah,
side,
absolutely.
especially if
that's
it's
what
not going to cost us anything. Pursue that, and let's see what they come back with, and then we'll go from there.
absolutely.
Yeah, we have to verify whether they'll do it without any
Yeah,
charge
yeah,
at all.
yeah,
I
yeah.
think
Right.
they would like to, but that's not confirmed.
Well, the
at
first
this
step is
point.
to be in contact with them, see which way they're going to move, and then, we'll go from there.
Yep, we
All
are.
right?
Okay, sounds like a plan. And then you can get back to us at the next meeting or before, so we can move ahead with this. Is there any other town board comment?
That would be mine, unless you... I just wanted to follow up on something one thing in particular from the last meeting. Victoria, you said there is $201,692.06 in the Water District Capital Reserve fund plus various CDs and money market accounts.
That included the operating fund.
A few weeks ago, we found out there was some more money in the highway department, and we put together something for Stanley on that. What I'd like to request is an accounting for each of the funds, their capital reserves funds and with their associated CDs and money market accounts, including the account numbers and stuff, so we can know for sure what the balances are for every fund. It's already April, we have a lot of projects that have to get done, and we need to know where we stand financially. So I'd like to...
For the capital project funds?
Yeah, for each one of them. That way everybody will know, what monies are available, and we can speak knowledgeably about them. It would be very helpful. And that was all I had. Thank you.
Well, the two capital project funds we have are the water district and highway. Okay, I can do that. Anything else? Okay,
Well, I would say also the recreation savings account would be helpful for us to know exactly where we are. I think we did bring it up, you brought it up at the last meeting, but it wouldn't hurt to have it
I
verified.
give that to the treasurer every month for Recreation Commission, but I can give it to
We
you
did
as
bring
well.
it up at the last meeting, but I think all the town board members should know.
Okay, I can run a trial balance for that. Anything else?
No, that's it.
Supervisor's report. I received a letter from the governor. Dear Supervisor Perotti, this year we put together our most ambitious plan to cut property taxes for New Yorkers who for too long have been suffering under sky-high tax rates. Thanks to your hard work and support, I am proud to say that this year's budget includes $1.5 billion in property tax relief for as many as 2.8 million New York taxpayers. This groundbreaking achievement would not have been possible without your commitment to demanding action from Albany and to finding ways to make our local governments more efficient and effective. Together, we delivered the relief that our families and homeowners needed. We couldn't have done it without your dedicated efforts. Thank you again for your great support and partnership in putting New Yorkers first. I look forward to our continued work together. Warmest regards, sincerely, Andrew Cuomo. This was a result of when Governor Cuomo presented his property tax plan. I did not go with the Association of Towns and the supervisors and mayors with the letters they sent to him. I spoke with a representative from the governor's office and told him my concerns, but said that I would support his efforts in property tax, knowing that the initial proposal that he put forth would be, worked on and probably changed somewhat with the negotiations for the budget. I just felt this was the right way to go. I also received from Thomas Caglione, who's the Mid-Hudson Regional Representative for Governor Andrew Cuomo. Please see the latest announcement from Governor Andrew Cuomo regarding $40 million in state funding going to local governments to make road repairs following this year's harsh winter. This is and then there was a list of the allocation of the Extreme Weather Recovery Capital Fund by county. And Amenia was allotted $8,674.24 toward additional highway repair cost. One of the other things that have been under discussion is whether or not to do a local law for regarding the absences and attendance of Planning Board and Zoning Board of Appeals. The only resolution we have on file is the requirement that there's 4 hours of mandatory land use training per year, fulfilled by attendance at regularly scheduled seminars and events. And that was passed in April 20th, 2006. We don't currently have a local law in place addressing the attendance of planning board and zoning board members. So I wanted to know from the board, is that something that you would like the attorney to work on, to create a local law to address attendance for planning board and zoning board of appeals members?
Yes.
No.
We voting?
No, she just asked our opinion.
I say yes, it's necessary. These planning, these positions are, they mean something. We have a lot of projects coming down the pipe, and we need participation. I understand that it is a volunteer position, but you have to be there. You have to attend. So you're up to speed with what's going on, what you're voting on, and a lot of these issues, you have to have quorum. You have these businesses that are coming before these boards that are paying lawyers and consultants and everything else to show up. If you don't have a quorum that night, they have to come back. I think it's a waste of money and a waste of time if we don't have the attendance. And I think having the law is going to help make us a better town.
Then would
I
you-
think that having the law, the point of it is to remove somebody from the board. And if there's no pressing need at the moment to remove a person from the board, then there should be no pressing need at the moment to spend the money on all of the legal fees that we would need to go through, plus all the public comments that we need to go through, and all the time that we would need to take on it. If there's no need to do it, why
But if you show up
why
and do
spend
your
the time
attendance,
now?
it doesn't matter.
Excuse me, I let you finish.
So go ahead, finish.
You talked over me. I forgot my end sentence. But my basic point is, if we don't need to remove anybody from the board, why waste the money? Why waste the time on it?
Well, I don't think the sole purpose of putting a local law in place is to remove anyone from the board. I believe it's to set standards.
Well, the standard's set in the state code, in
Not
the
attendance.
town.
Not
Not
attendance,
attendance.
it is not.
That's up to us.
Well, that's in the policy.
No, it's not. There's no policy. The
I think-
only policy is the training
Yeah,
by
we,
No, that's a
resolution.
resolution. It's in the policy books. It said 3 absences. something like that.
I was on the zoning board of appeals many years ago in the town of Northeast, and I agree with Mike in the sense that, a lot of these applicants, they come, they bring their attorneys there, they're paying their attorneys. The people that serve on these boards need to be at those meetings. And
So are
we
you
need to
saying
set
that
a
they're not
standard.
being at the meetings right now? Is that the case that we're having, that they're not showing up at the planning board meetings?
We have had an issue for
Yes.
a long time of spotty and poor attendance on planning boards, maybe also ZBA. I think it's just a reality. It's a reality. It's not singling out anyone. It's historically an issue, as long as I can remember.
I guess the bottom line is the right thing to do. You need processes in place. If it's not an issue now, it's going to be an issue eventually. So let's deal with it now. So if that problem arises, there's something in place. I think for too long we've been pushing things to the side. Let's
Be
do things the
proactive.
right way.
Yeah.
That's the way that I look at it.
And you make a commitment, if you make a commitment to go through the re-interview process and say that you're going to serve, and we vote you in to serve on the planning board, zoning board, just like with us, we should be showing up. We're not we're being paid, but, the whole reason why I ran for this position was not for the money. It was to serve my community. And if you make that commitment to serve your community, whether you're on a zoning board, planning board, or a town board, you need to be there and you need to show up. You need to get the training that you need. And you need to read the material.
Would you like to make the resolution?
I would like to hear from the chair of each of the boards about it.
Why?
We already have. I have.
I haven't, and the information that you got wasn't passed over, so
It was sent to you.
this from Norm.
We have to make the
And
It got- it
resolution,
got
not the
emailed to
boards.
you.
When?
Do you want to proceed with it? You sent this, you emailed this to everyone.
Yes.
I emailed, yeah, I received a copy of the resolution. I said I would like to hear from the chairs of the planning and the zoning board of appeals.
Well, he's right here.
I brought it up at our last meeting, and everybody agreed that there should be some kind of criteria for the attendance. The figure of three misses within a 4-session period with one criteria, the other one was 8 within a year. And it's not to kick anybody off the board. If somebody hits that criteria, it triggers a process where it goes to the town board. Town board takes a look at it. Was there a family emergency? Was there a problem? A valid reason they couldn't attend. If that's the case, you excuse it, and they go on. On the other hand, we've also had times where we've gone months with any particular person not attending. And currently, there's no way to get that person off the board if they aren't going to come. And often we know they're not coming back. They're done. And they don't turn in a letter. So if they don't turn in a letter, the town board can't do anything with it. So we chase them, hoping they'll turn in a letter someday. So you need a process where it allows the town board to act if need be, with a fair criteria, which the 3 and 8 is a really good numbers, and that allows you to do something if there is no valid reason for the absences. Pretty straightforward.
And
And
again,
everybody on the planning board agrees with that.
I mean, my bottom line concern is, like, right now, in order to get somebody off the planning board or the ZBA, which are the only two boards that can take action that doesn't agree with the town board, you know, they're like separation there, which is, in my opinion, a good thing. You have to go through an entire process. So if there isn't an existing pressing need for someone to be off the board, why not leave that period of deliberation in place so that
Because without a process in place, all you can do is
No,
deliberate. You can't act. You need a process
you
in
can't
place.
act immediately.
You can't
You
act.
have to stop, you have to think, you have to
I've
deliberate.
been through this so many times, where people don't come forever and ever to meetings, and we don't have that person there. So then I've got to make sure I go to every meeting, because we won't have a quorum if that person's not going to show up for the next 5 months, and we know that. So then you're forcing every other member to make sure that that sacrifice, when they could take an occasional miss on a meeting, to do family functions or whatever else, because they know the other person's not going to be there. The current system doesn't work. You need some kind of criteria. You need the ability to act if somebody's not coming. That's all people are looking for. Currently, you don't have it.
Well, you know, and I'm going to add to this. If a town board, as far as like the town board ousting someone off the planning or the zoning board, well, if they go to the meetings, then they don't have anything to worry about.
It's an attendance issue. I mean, that's what we're getting at. I mean, we're not looking to get anybody off the board. If you don't show up for the meetings, then you come to a hearing before the town board.
And what we're doing is we're establishing a standard and a process.
And a means by which to act if the standard's met,
Right.
which you don't have.
I mean, Gretchen, what are you worried about? I mean,
It's not a question of worry, like I said to you before, Mike, it's a question of allowing deliberation without having knee-jerk reactions and not wasting money.
but what's
You're
When
allowed-
we have so
You're allowing,
many
you're
other
allowing
This is not-
deliberation. That's the whole intent of this.
when we have so many other things that we need to spend, our legal fees on, wasting it on this, when
We
there's
could
no
rewrite that
pressing need to
ourselves.
do
We
it.
Legal
could
fees are
rewrite
also
that
wasted when you
resolution to
have
include
a meeting without a quorum.
the meetings
So.
requirement.
But it has to be a local law.
Well, I don't think it should be that onerous.
Doesn't it have to be in the local law?
That is, yeah, because if you look at the respective sections of 271 of the town law, subparagraph 9, the town board shall have the power to remove after public hearing any member of the planning board for cause. Any planning board member may be removed for non-compliance with minimum requirements relating to meeting attendance and training as established by the town board by local law or ordinance.
But we don't have a specific local law in place.
We don't have the guidelines.
Make a resolution to authorize the attorney to introduce a local law that applies to the attendance requirements of the planning board and zoning board.
I second.
Councilman Malengo.
Yes.
Councilwoman Hitzelberger.
No.
Councilwoman Doyle.
Yes.
Councilman Crody.
Yes.
And Supervisor Crody.
Yes. I attended a meeting today at the Sharon Health Center, the ESF number 8, it's Health and Medical Subcommittee at Sharon Hospital. They wanted to have someone from a local town. They're setting up information and standard for emergency response. One of the things they've been working on that the town of Sharon has is a form that has town of Sharon medical needs registry, where they would have a registry of people with special needs. So if there was an emergency, that, you know, those people's needs would be addressed. They have monthly meetings, and I'm going to be attending the meetings from now on to in order to add to our emergency response to be able to deal with any type of emergency. I had a note from Lee's Tree Service, who is the company that got the bid to do all our tree work, that it was just a reminder of spring pruning of the street trees and possible removal of the locust trees by M&T Bank. They also have an ISA certified arborist on their payroll. And I wondered if the town board would like to have spring pruning done of the street trees, and what you thought about removing the 2 locust trees by M&T Bank that are currently where the branches are into the wires.
We also were talking about removing that stump. I can't remember how we left that. Somebody was willing to remove that stump. Do you remember?
Yes.
There's a stump by the War Memorial that's just covered
Yes.
with ivy. Is that possibly a part of that, or is that a different?
Actually, Stan said he would do that.
Okay.
But the 2 locust trees that are between the M&T Bank and Mike's business, I mean, the branches are
I would like
into
to
the
remove
wires.
those, because the one that we light, the fireman's tree, it's hard to tuck the Christmas tree underneath the branches, and it just makes it really awkward. I would love to have those 2 locust trees removed, I think, and then plant one slow-growing black forest potentially right there that could be the Christmas tree. We planted one down in Wassaic, and I know it'll get eventually too big, but it would be nice to have a live tree down there for the winter doldrums. But I'd have to have somebody else look at that, but I would go for taking away the locust trees, or at least the one that interferes with the Christmas tree.
Okay, so do you want me to get the price of the spring pruning of the street trees and the
We
removal
did
of
that.
locust trees?
I think the street trees are pruned. You know, they kind of just got a haircut.
Okay, so basically all we need is the removal of the locust trees?
Yeah, if we can get a
Get-
bid for that.
Get a bid for that, get a price for that, right?
Well, this lease tree service, they have their bid.
They
You
have.
know, that's who the town gave the bid to have
Okay.
trees removed. So do
When
we,
does that expire?
in the fall, the end of the year? Goes year to year.
September to September?
Well, when he gets the bids at the end of the year. It's not expired now. They have the current bid. So we don't think any of the street trees need to be pruned?
They were done last year.
So they don't need to be, okay, so, but we'd like to remove the 2 locust trees?
I think that's been on the cards. They have roots that are upsetting the brickwork.
Okay,
we gotta get them out of there.
They're not the right tree for that masonry work.
so we make a resolution to have Lee's trees remove the locust trees by M&T Bank?
Provide us with an estimate.
Do you want me to, I mean, I'll get the price of what it's going to be.
Can we do that first?
We'll do that, and then we'll, bring, I'll bring it to the next meeting. But I just didn't know, if there needed to be spring pruning also, but it's just the removal of the locust trees. Okay.
Can you also ask Stanley if there are any other trees that he feels need attention?
Sure. There was also an automobile accident that took down a lot of the state signs and 2 of our vintage lights, as well as a bench across from by the M&T Bank. I pulled the invoice for the bench, the price of the bench, and I've sent it to the insurance company. I'm in the process of trying to get prices for vintage lights, since those particular lights are about 20 years old, and I believe when they were ordered, they don't even make them anymore. I'm in contact with the Village of Millbrook, who has a company that they work with who will only sell to municipalities.
Bless you.
So I'm going to be getting prices for the 2 vintage lights that got mowed down. I've already sent in, the cost of the electrician to go there and take care of the wiring, and also the cost of the bench. So that's an ongoing process.
Was everybody okay at the accident?
As far as I know, this person kind of took a wide turn.
They drove down
off
the
the light.
sidewalk.
Yeah, he drove right on the sidewalk.
Drove right down the sidewalk.
He drove on the sidewalk, mowed down at least 3 state signs, and hit the bench so hard that it pulled the bricks right up with the bench, and totally destroyed the 2 vintage lights.
Well, as long as nobody got hurt, I guess it's all not so horrible.
Well, the person drove home,
Yeah.
so that person wasn't hurt, but it was very helpful to the police to see who it was, because the video at Mike's Garage saw the whole thing.
We'll talk later.
So we know who it is, and Byron Barnes, our insurance broker, tracked down the insurance carrier, so I'm dealing with the insurance carrier, the person who mowed down the bench and the vintage lights. Senator Terry Gibson will have his 5th tax relief town hall held at the town of Amenia on Wednesday, April 16th, 2014, from 6:30 p.m. to 8 p.m. at the Amenia Town Hall, 4988 Route 22. Senator Gibson's tax relief town hall will feature a short presentation from Senator Gibson that addresses his legislative plans and priorities on tax relief. The presentation will be followed by a question and answer center. All are welcome district-wide to come and take part in the event and are encouraged to bring specific questions on tax relief.
Was the payment of constables resolved for that?
We're paying for the constables, but I'm not, I did tell him that it would be a cost to the town to videotape the presentation, so they're looking into taking care of that by themselves. But we are paying for the cost of the constables for the senator, 'cause he asked that constables be present.
How much is that going to cost us?
Whatever time we're here,
I guess
hourly.
Estimate?
Well, 6:30 to 8 p.m. is the allotted time. I don't know that he needs it. Is he worried about parking?
No,
He's worried about security?
yes.
I would just mention also that I agree. I suggested that a fellow who's doing a lot of wood chipping dump a load of wood chips at the south side of the parking lot for the Mechanic Street Rail Trail parking lot. We own the land that's on the south side and as close to the sidewalk going up Depot Hill Road as we could, so that we could use the wood chips to mulch the trees on along the rail trail and along Mechanic Street. So there'll be probably 2 big piles for volunteers to wheelbarrow it over.
Saturday?
Either tomorrow or Saturday. So
Okay.
those wood chips would be available for that purpose.
For the constables, so where are we getting the money to pay them?
Out of the constable room.
Isn't that like all allocated for court?
Well, it's allocated for court or whatever we need him for. If the line goes over, I'll have to take it out of somewhere else.
And what are you thinking for the somewhere else?
Usually the contingency.
So we may have to pull the money for that. All right.
Depends.
I know we did budget some for a few other functions,
Public events.
the music hall and a couple other things, so there is a little bit in there.
Thanks, Chris.
So it should be able to make it through.
Okay. No, I just know it was so tight with you guys with budget time. I don't want there to be a problem at the end of the year.
Extras that we didn't put in for,
Mhm.
and then when we did the budget for this time, we thought about a few extras, so we put a little bit more money into it.
Great, thank you.
Is there anything else? Well, then I make a motion to adjourn.
Second that.
Thanks for coming, everybody. It's unusual to see a full house out there, relatively full.